this admission by Olaf Scholz is probably a sober reality. It's clear that most countries, notably in the global south, view the war in Ukraine as mostly being a European or American problem. They're hyper-focused on protecting their own interests economically and otherwise, as they should be. So, in your opinion, why has the Western messaging led by the United States about threats to the world order fallen on deaf ears?
Well, as you say, every country acts in its own interest, but the expectation of Western countries has been for a long time, especially in recent years as the world has become less stable. The expectation of Western governments has been that they should act in the global interest, and there is always a dilemma for because those two things can sometimes clash, and they do clash in this case. But I think where the West has, or Western governments have gone wrong is that they have essentially told other countries that other countries should side with the West, rather than pointing out to other countries that it's in their own interest to join the West in trying to end this war, and it's in other countries' interest to try to help to end this war, because the war is making the whole world unstable, the global economy unstable, and if Russia manages to continue this war against Ukraine, it sends a message to other countries that they can invade their neighbors with impunity. And I don't think that's something that any country in the global south or elsewhere wants to see the world turn into.
As we mentioned, the admission by Olaf Scholz seems like a sober reality, but then he makes suggestions that perhaps will get a lot of countries on our side if we help them and assist them. And the first thing that he talks about is the issue of climate change. Is that realistic? Is that what countries out of the West want to focus on right now, the issue of climate change solely?
Well, climate change is the one most pressing issue facing every country on the earth, and especially countries in the global south. So I think if we have unite around that, that would be a fantastic step. And we should remember that this war in Ukraine is causing an enormous increase in CO2 emissions, simply because wars include actions that cause a lot of carbon dioxide emissions. But if Western governments can convince countries in the global south and indeed around the world that they too contribute to making the world safer by joining Western sanctions, then I think everybody would benefit. And then people will say, well, countries in the global south can't put a lot of pressure on Russia because they don't trade a lot with Russia. But it's more about the symbolism for Russia to see in the United Nations that there is a majority of member states in the United Nations opposing wars of invasion. And I think every country in the world is worried about being invaded by a stronger country. So that's I think, a good bottom line on which to unite against this war, regardless of how countries view Western actions and Western sanctions.
Senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Elisabeth Braw, joining us this morning from Washington, D.C. Thank you for that analysis.